Give this man a round of applause, Frank LaRose. He's doing the job well. I appreciate that. Thank you, guys. It's a warm welcome to Brown County today. I actually want to recognize a friend of mine that I've been traveling with all day. Smitty, stand up. One of the veterans who stood up, Smitty, he went through a difficult period yesterday, but he's as healthy as ever, and we're grateful for it. Smitty, thank you for everything you've done for us and all the boots-on-the-ground bikers for Trump that you lead. So thank you, guys. I want to talk about where we are right now, because it's a really different place than we were 4 years ago. Feels good today. Maybe a little warm. Okay. But, you know, I would say it's because we're on a hot streak as a Republican Party. That's what we're celebrating tonight in Brown County. 4 years ago, when I was actually in this part of the state, I launched a book called Woke Inc. Okay. We were in the middle of a national identity crisis in the United States. Faith in God, patriotism, hard work, family, had all but disappeared in so much of our country. Our young people, I met a number of you, even here today, our young people were lost, hungering for purpose and meaning and identity, hungering to be part of something bigger than themselves, and yet so many couldn't even answer what it meant to be an American. We had a 25% recruitment deficit in our U.S. military. Less than 16% of Gen Z said they were proud to be an American. And that's why in November, I spent the better part of the last year traveling this country to make sure we got it right in November. And in November, it was a fork in the road for the future of the country. And we got it right indeed. And now we are on the cusp of a new golden age in the United States of America. I've never been more optimistic about our state. I've never been more optimistic about our country than I am right now. A revival of conviction in what it means to be a citizen of this nation. We said the Pledge of Allegiance. We sang the national anthem. What are the values enshrined in this flag that we honor? What does it actually mean to be an American today? It means we believe in the ideals that set this country into motion the first time around. It means we believe in ideals like meritocracy and hard work and the pursuit of excellence. That you get ahead in this country not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character and your contributions. That is why, thankfully, we're now done with the woke DEI agenda and the affirmative action and group quotas in the United States of America. We're done with that because we believe in meritocracy. That is who we are. What does it mean to be American? It means we believe in the rule of law. And I say this as the proud son of legal immigrants to Cincinnati, Ohio. Thank you. I respect that. It also means that your first act of entering this country cannot break the law. And that is why if we've had the largest influx of illegals into this country in American history, then we ought to have the largest mass deportation in American history. That's not racist. That's not xenophobic. That's what it means to stand for the rule of law in the United States of America. It means the people we elect to make the laws should be the ones who actually make the laws. Not unelected bureaucrats in three-letter government agencies in Washington, D.C., or for that matter, we'll talk about this, even in Columbus, Ohio. It means that you get to speak your mind freely, as long as I get to in return. I know we arrived late. Do we have protesters tonight? I couldn't tell if we did or not. Yeah, that's what, I couldn't tell what they were doing. We've had some good experiences. So sometimes they make it a little clearer. I might have been distracted and on the phone, but usually we try. My apologies. Tonight, we didn't get to do it. Usually we go out and talk to them and we have some funny exchanges, actually. There was I'll tell you a little detour. We went to Lucas County, right, northwest corner of the state. And there was a photo line like we had here, and thank you all for coming up beforehand. And so there was a man who was the last guy to take a picture. He came up, he wanted me to sign the book for him. He gave me his card. He came up with his son, and he took a picture. And he was telling me about his family. I said, well, where's your wife? He said, she's actually one of the protesters outside. Kind of reminds you, right? Even the Cincinnati I grew up in used to be an Ohio, a Cincinnati, a United States of America, where we could disagree vehemently, vigorously, oftentimes even viciously, and then still get together at the dinner table at the end of it, right? That, too, I think, is part of our character as Americans. It means that we're heroic, that we're brave, when called upon, even courageous, to do what is right for our country in our hour of need. That's what our founding fathers did 250 years ago. That's what I believe Donald Trump is fighting for as our 47th president today. But it isn't going to be a one-man job. It doesn't work that way. It never has. It's not how we're designed. If we're going to be saved as a nation, it's going to be because we all step up and save ourselves. Was there a guy I saw walking around at the start of this event? I'm traveling to Lincoln Day every day, so I apologize if that person isn't here. But I feel like I saw somebody say, we're not going to be, there's no one coming to save you. Is that you in the back, man? Over here? There he was today. Well, he said, no one is coming to save you. Not in this civic world that we're in, at least, right? If we're going to be saved, I love that T-shirt. It stood out to me. We're going to have to step up and save ourselves. It falls on our shoulders to save this country. It's not somebody else's responsibility. Donald Trump is doing his part. I promise you I'm going to do mine as your next governor if you put me there. But it's going to require every one of us to step up and play our part, from county commissioner to mayor to board of election members to a secretary of state who goes on to become an auditor, to every person in this room. Frankly, I want to recognize one of those men who managed to be here tonight. Wayne, would you stand up for us tonight? I want to recognize Wayne, who suffered a stroke about, 8 weeks ago? 8 weeks in one day, and he's here today to celebrate our country with pride. Give him a round of applause. I appreciate you, Wayne. And he's done his part. And I believe in this next chapter of our American life, it is going to be the states that actually lead the way, as our founding fathers intended it. Look at the shutdown of the Department of Education. We're all in favor of it. We're cheering it. That thing should have never really festered for 60 years in the first place. But if we're really serious about improving education in this country, it isn't going to be the federal government that finishes the job. It's going to fall on the shoulders of the states and the people for so much of our health policy, economic development, increasing wage growth, driving a manufacturing boom in this country. It's going to be the states that lead the way. And this is where I believe we here in Ohio now have an opportunity to lead the way. Not just to follow in the shadow of Texas or Florida anymore. And I say that with due respect to those states. They've been run well in many ways in the last 10 years. It's not about us following Texas and Florida anymore. It's not about Ohio just being the best state in the Midwest. We want to be the top state in the country when it comes to giving our kids that world-class education. When it comes to generating wealth and growing a business and keeping it with pride. When it comes to giving our kids the tools not to see themselves as victims, but as victors in a competitive global economy. Where we embrace meritocracy and capitalism without apologizing for it. The state where we're leading in the sectors of the future, cutting the red tape, getting out of the way so innovation can thrive once again here in Ohio. That is why I'm running to be your governor, and that is where we're leading Ohio, not just to be one of the better states in our region, but to be the top state in our country. We are a great state, but great is not good enough. We're going to greater days ahead, and that's where we're taking our state. Now there are those who will say, especially amongst my friend group in old New York City where I got my first job and have still many friends who live there, believe it or not. We get them to visit Ohio from time to time. Friends in Silicon Valley and even in Texas and Florida, right? When I talk to them, they'll say, well, don't get carried away. How could Ohio be that state? Well, I remind them, and I remind ourselves, actually, that it was not long ago that Ohio was that state. You see, at the turn of the first industrial revolution, at the turn of the last century, Ohio was the wealthiest state in the Union, the third most populous state in the United States of America, an economic powerhouse at the heart of the greatest nation known to the history of mankind. You see, young people today, they have this meme on the internet that got popular over the last few years, where if something's a little bit of out of touch or out of fashion, they would say, only in Ohio, right? And that irritated me. Because if you think about our legacy as a state, even in the 1950s, that's not that long ago. In the year 1950, 6 of the top 15 wealthiest and most productive cities in America were right here in Ohio. Toledo was the glass capital of the world. Akron was the rubber capital. Youngstown and Cleveland were jointly the steel production centers of the Western Hemisphere. Dayton was the computing power engine that led the Industrial Revolution, where I was earlier today. in my hometown of Cincinnati, not far from where we are right now, was known around the world as the Queen City. Porkopolis is what we were. Provide the food supply chain, a consumer products capital of the United States. That's who we were, the pioneers, the explorers, the unafraid, the place where a group of Baptists moved into the woods to be able to found a state before even the advent of the Constitutional Convention to secure religious liberty and freedom of speech for posterity. The people who no government or bureaucracy would dare stop from achieving the maximum of our potential. That's the state that gave rise to the birth of Neil Armstrong, born and raised, living in Ohio as he became the first man in human history to walk on the moon. That's a state that gave rise to John Glenn, the first American to go into orbit around the Earth at a time that was deemed impossible, born, raised right here in Ohio. The state of the Wright brothers, who saw cars on the street but said, no, that's not good enough. We're going to imagine these things taking flight, and we're going to be the kids to do it. Born, raised right here in Ohio. You see, we were the state of excellence in the United States of America. And I believe we can be that state again, because if you think about it, not just false hope, dreams, lofty rhetoric type of stuff. On the hard facts of it, we have every natural advantage that we did the first time around. The same fertile farmland, still our top sector, always has been. The same natural resources underneath our ground. Not only coal, not only oil, but now natural gas, which we now know is valuable. We didn't even know that in the first industrial revolution. We have an abundance of it right here in our state. Same great hardworking people, many of whom are in this room. The same great geographic location, Erie Canal to New York City, Ohio River to the Mississippi. 60% of North America's population within a single day's drive of where we're having dinner right now. God has blessed our state with every gift we could possibly wish for to be the top state that leads America back to greatness. All we have to do is to actually believe in ourselves to step up and do it. I'll tell you, for my part, I have bone-deep conviction that if Silicon Valley led the way for the last 10 years, it's going to be on my watch the Ohio River Valley for the next 10 years. We're done with the Rust Belt, bringing the Platinum Belt to Ohio. And we're not just chasing the past, right? I'm not saying I want to take Ohio back to 1950. I'm saying I want the Ohio of 2030 to represent to the United States and to the world what the Ohio of 1950 represented to the world. And that means it may not just be the exact same sectors as last time around. I'll be honest with you about that. It may not be precisely rubber production next time around. But it is going to be the sectors of the future, from semiconductor production to our defense industrial base, including, we spent time with a gun manufacturer earlier today. Is Clay in the room? There you are. Clay, you guys want to stand up back there? You guys are, both of you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Give these guys a round of applause. Building our defense industrial base, not far from where we are right now. I consider that to be advanced manufacturing. There are patents you guys have written to be able to innovate and bring our defense industrial base. Right now, most of our defense industrial base, dirty little secret, depends on China. That doesn't make any sense when they're your top adversary. At the very least, the thing that ought to be made in America is our ability to defend ourselves, and you guys are doing a fantastic job. Thank you for everything you've built. That's the sectors of the future I'm talking about, the advanced manufacturing, the advanced production of tomorrow. Nuclear energy to natural gas to power our electric grid for the next 10 years. Biotech to Bitcoin to the state where we use AI not to take jobs, but to make jobs through workforce training and education. I visited the Greater Dayton School earlier today, where they're using next generation methods of integrating tailored AI-based tools that allow kids to learn faster in the classroom in math, reading, and writing, outperforming expectations. And what I didn't even tell you is that the only kids going to that school are kids of parents who are Medicaid eligible, now outperforming their grade levels because of what they're actually doing in integrating that next generation of AI into the classroom. That's my dream for Ohio. We're not chasing the past, we're chasing the future. This is our modern-day Northwest Ordinance in Ohio. And I'll tell you this, we're a conservative state. And I say this at a Lincoln Reagan Day dinner tonight. We should be proud of the fact that we're a conservative state. We deserve to actually be governed like one. And that isn't going to lose us elections. That's sometimes the fear. Now, that's not going to lose us elections. that will win us elections because it's actually going to put more money in your pocket. And not just the pockets of the people in this room, but the Democrats in this state too. It's going to lift up more people from poverty. It's going to revive that civic missing self-confidence in our young people that I believe is their birthright as Ohioans. It's going to make Ohio the state that patriots across this country flock to, not just Florida and Texas. And that includes so many of our kids and grandkids who have left this state to pursue opportunity elsewhere, to repatriate them, to be close to their roots, to their parents, to their grandparents, while still not having to trade off living the American dream as they choose to do it. Now, I believe that is now more than ever going to require a leader from the next generation, coming from the outside, to be able to do whatever is required to lead our state forward. Let me be clear about this. We're a great state. It's not California. Okay, I'm backing a guy who's running for governor of California, a great guy named Steve Hilton. He's a friend of mine. He actually came to our launch here in Ohio. And when he came here, I told him, your job in California is going to be a lot harder than our job here in the Communist Republic of the West. But here, we're mostly headed in the right direction. Broadly, we could pick at some things here and there. But broadly, generally, we're headed in the right direction. We just need to step on the gas to now get there even faster. And there will be some changes required in this state. I'll talk about a few of them tonight. One of them is that we do have a population decline issue that we're going to have to address. Right? People in my generation are having fewer kids. You combine that with the fact that we've got more people leaving our state than moving in. That's leading to population decline. And then you look at who's moving out. They tend to be younger, college-educated people versus who's moving in. We love them, but there are people coming to our state from neighboring states who are on government aid. That doesn't work for our state in the long run. We've got to be a state that is a magnet for the skilled workers across this country and for the next generation. And every month in this campaign, we're going to lay out a very tangible plan to make sure we're a state that isn't 11 million and declining, but 15 million and growing patriotic Americans living right here in our state of Ohio. And tonight, I'm glad to say that the first step we're going to take in that direction is that we are going to become a zero income tax state on my watch. It is your money, not the government's. And you deserve to keep what you earn. If Texas and Florida and Tennessee and New Hampshire and Nevada and other states can do it, then so can the state that put a man on the moon. The first step to get there is we're going to get rid of the capital gains tax in Ohio because we want to bring capital owners to invest in our state. And it's not just the income tax and the capital gains tax. I'll also tell you this, and so many of you know it. Our property taxes have gotten insanely high in this state. They are unacceptably high. When you're paying as much in your property taxes as you are in the income and principal repayment on your mortgage, it starts to feel like the land that you own is really just like a lease from the government, which is unjust. It is un-American. It is antithetical to our values here in Ohio, and we will apply a statewide ceiling to the property tax rate that's able to be assessed and bring ballot transparency so people know what they're actually voting for. It's not too much to ask. See, we want to drive an industrial boom of a kind this state has not seen since the first industrial revolution. We want to unleash our economy. Be the red state, not the state of red tape. For every new regulation they try to put up on my watch, we will require they rescind at least 10 others before we even consider it. We're going to apply common sense reforms in our cities so our police officers and sheriffs and law enforcement are empowered to actually do their jobs without fear looking over their shoulder of being sued, an issue that pretty soon is coming to the ballot on this state as well. We're going to make sure that our jails are not the top form of psychiatric health care by bringing back psychiatric hospitals that we shuttered in this state. That's not cruelty. That is true compassion because we're going to do it the right way. It's common sense, an aggressive pursuit of common sense to create an economic haven at the heart of the country. The state where we build. Bring down the cost of housing by building more homes. Build more houses. Build more small businesses that grow up to be big businesses. Build more manufacturing plants. Build more startups. Build wealth. Build a family. Build a life in the mold of the American dream in the state of AI dominance, manufacturing dominance, energy dominance. Not just about green pieces of paper here, about increasing our GDP numbers. This is about improving our social fabric as a state and as a nation so that we're no longer a region where Little League teams have to shut down because they can't find a local company to sponsor them anymore. Where a mom doesn't have to think twice before having that second or third or fourth kid for fear of the cost of a new stroller or buying a bigger car. A state where every parent has that bone-deep conviction that their kids will go on to live an even better life than they did by staying right here in Ohio. That's my dream for the state. We will be the state of economic excellence in the United States of America. As we once were, we will be again in Ohio. Now, to get there, there's one crystal clear missing link to this that we're going to have to address head on. To be the state of economic excellence, we also have to become the state of educational excellence in America. And the first step to solving a problem is to admit that you have one, okay? Not just as Ohio, but here as a nation. We're in the middle of an educational achievement crisis that threatens, I believe, the future existence of American greatness. Right now, 75% of eighth graders are not proficient in math. The average student in China is a full 4 academic years ahead of the average student here. That means a 7th grader here is performing at the equivalent standard of a 3rd grade student in China. There's kids in other countries now where English isn't even their first language, doing better on English proficiency, our own national language, than our own kids right here at home. That is unacceptable. And I know I speak for every parent in this room, every parent in Ohio, and I hope every parent in the country, when I say we refuse to stand by and idly watch as China laughs at our gradual decay into oblivion, no. We're going to turn this ship around for the country, and we're going to turn it around right here in the state of Ohio, where we will lead the country and the world in giving our kids a world-class education in the foundational subjects of math, reading, writing, physical education, financial literacy, civic education, not just through our school choice programs, which have worked really well in this state, actually. Don't let the left-leaning media convince you otherwise. The data is clear. Our public schools have performed better after the adoption of school choice in this state than before. And we've got to go even further with those school choice programs, as great states like Arizona and Iowa have done. We're going to do that in Ohio. But we will lead the country by also being the state that shows how it's done in reviving and fixing our public schools so they're able to also compete with the best of those alternatives. And to do that, I mean, this is really not as complicated as we make it out to be. I think the revival of public education comes down to 2 things. The restoration of order and discipline in our failing public schools combined with high standards of achievement. And that's something that I think every parent and every teacher, even in this state, can actually, if you get them to be honest, can actually agree on. And most of them are. See, I mean, first of all, we got a chronic absenteeism issue that started since the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's start with the table stakes. We have 25% chronic absenteeism in this state. We got to make sure our kids show up to school. It's the most basic form of discipline. Fact of the matter is, I'll promise you this as your next governor, okay? Never again are we going to bend the knee to a fake Anthony Fauci knockoff who allowed our public schools to be shuttered while our private schools remained open. She's my opponent in this race, and we're going to beat her by 40 points next year with your help in a landslide that takes our state to the next level. That's just the table stakes. But we got to go further than that. We want to be the state of excellence in education from the sports fields to the classroom. And that means the best public school teachers in this state deserve to be paid, frankly, a lot more than they are right now. That's not a typical Republican talking point. We're going to speak the truth. Because you can't live the American dream on a starting salary of $40,000 a year and then somehow say we want to fix our educational achievement crisis. It isn't going to happen unless we create the incentives to do it, but it's got to be tied in some measure to performance. I mean, raise your hand if you're a business owner in this room. Got a good number of you. Imagine if you're running a company without any performance management system whatsoever. It would be nutty. And yet that's how public schools across this country are actually run today. We're going to bring some basic performance management metrics to our public schools, not just teaching to the test. Basic standards of collaboration, peer assessments within the school. The school I visited earlier today in Dayton is one of a few schools in the state that's already doing this. The results speak for themselves. I went to a different school, the Vanguard Sentinel, near Clyde, Ohio, earlier, actually this month, last week. And they adopted merit-based pay before and after, night and day difference in student placement, graduation rates, earnings after they graduate, retention rates. It's better for our students and better for our teachers, not just in math, reading, and writing, but also physical education. We're going to bring back PE as early as kindergarten. We're going to bring back the presidential fitness test in our middle schools. Frankly, I don't know why we got rid of it in the first place. We were actually at Tim O'Hara's house. Tim, you want to stand up for a second? Give this, for those of you who know, give this man a round of applause. Drill sergeant made me do my pull-ups before we came here at his house. We're going to bring that back at a young age because, frankly, you understand this as well as I do, Tim, is the best way to save on health costs in the long run is to have a healthier population in the first place. Serve healthier food in the cafeterias. Not just physical health, but mental health too. We are in the middle of a mental health epidemic, that loss of purpose and meaning that I talked about at the beginning. Fentanyl, suicide, depression, anxiety, opioid addiction. The cycle, we're going to have to break it, and that starts with our schools, filling that void with the real thing rather than the fake stuff. Get the cell phones out of the classroom. Stop baiting our kids into the cycle of ADD, Ritalin treatment, stunting their growth with nothing to show for it. Replace the woke indoctrination and victimhood psychology with actual civic education, actual U.S. history lessons that teach our kids to be proud of our country and our state rather than to be ashamed of it. Say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning with a moment of silence, as we did before we got this dinner started tonight. To be able to give our kids enough knowledge so every high school senior who graduates from an Ohio public high school on my watch will have to pass the same civics test that every legal immigrant has to pass before they become a naturalized citizen. We got to make that a condition for graduation from high school. Because you can't love a country that you don't know the first thing about. You got to respect a country by knowing the country and what it actually represents. And then that lays the foundation for reviving higher education in this state. And I say this as somebody who went through four-year college degree programs myself. I went to public schools in Cincinnati before I went to St. X. But then I went to prestigious private colleges for four-year degree program and law school. That's great. That was my path. And my wife, Apurva, who is the true hero of the family, actually. She's a throat surgeon at the Ohio State Cancer Hospital at the James. And she takes care of patients every day, and frankly, she's not even reimbursed for many of the surgeries that she does. She went through four-year college degree programs, and that's great. But we also recognize that our path cannot be and must not be the only path to the American dream either. I want us to be a state where we are also the place where every son and daughter of Ohio who wants to become a welder or a mechanic or a carpenter or a machine operator or a builder can also live that American dream without four-year college debt, without occupational licensing requirements. To integrate earn while you learn programs as early as high school. Put some money in that high school kid's pocket. We don't have to be ashamed about that. Get the regulations that stop us from doing it today out of the way. So when you're 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, young men and women, and especially many of our young men, are able to reconnect with their sense of purpose by actually not only getting hard skills that allow them to be productive, but to be able to put some money in their pocket instead of sitting in their parents' basement playing video games and smoking pot and living a life of government aid. That's not what we want for our kids. Break the cycle of dependence. That's the true declaration of independence that it's time for us to celebrate in our own state right here. I mean, that's what a true meritocracy is about, actually. It's not that one of these paths is better or worse than the other. We fell into this trap that it was four-year college degree or bust. And then now I don't want us to go the other way, which, some of our friends, I sometimes course correct them when I say that they say four-year college education, where that's elite and that's bad. No, that's not bad either. They're all elite, okay, the way I look at it. We should be proud of that. The state where every path is open to every child. That's what a true meritocracy is about. This nation was built on that idea of a meritocracy. A true meritocracy recognizes that every one of us, every one of you, every one of your kids has your own unique God-given gift, distinct from every other person in the world, actually. And that we are the nation where you get to make the most of your own unique God-given potential without any government or system or bureaucracy standing in your way. That is what made America great the first time. That is how we will make Ohio great again. Raising a generation of children who don't envy or be spiteful to somebody else's success through capitalism because they're actually participating in it with real skin in the game themselves. That's my message to my two sons tonight and to your kids tonight. We are the state where the American dream is your birthright, where success is your birthright, where a world-class education is your birthright, where freedom is your heritage. And if we embrace that, then excellence will be our destiny. This is not a humble vision for our state. I will admit that. It is an ambitious vision, because I believe that is who we really are as Ohioans and as Americans. We don't whine, we win. We're not victims, we're victors. That's who we are. When we rally behind the cry to make America great again, that is what we hungered for, the unapologetic pursuit of excellence in the United States of America. That is what the American dream is all about. I've lived it. I am grateful to this state and to this country for allowing me to live an American dream that my parents never imagined possible when they came here with no money 45 years ago to see a son who founded successful companies and became the youngest person in history to run for U.S. president as a Republican, now hopefully in a position to lead the same state I grew up in to our best days. The thing that makes that story so extraordinary in our state is that it isn't really extraordinary at all in the United States of America. And we will fight every day to pass that on to our kids and their generation, doing it the hard way when necessary. All right, I'm traveling every one of the 88 counties in our state. This year, we're going to be at every one of the 88 counties next year. And I hope we're going to hit every one of the 88 counties every one of the 8 years that I hopefully am honored to serve as your next governor. Because we don't want to govern from a bubble either. I don't want to sit in Columbus in a vacuum. The success of this state means the success of every part of this state. Not just Columbus, not just the 3 C's, but from the inner city of Toledo to the foothills of Appalachia, we're lifting all of Ohio up. That's what true success looks like. And it's not just geographically. I'll be honest with you, this is a Republican event. I'm a proud Republican here tonight, but it's not just the Republicans who we want to lead. We want to lead not just the people who are in this room, but the people who are not in this room, too. You know, the protester I mentioned the other day, the man whose wife was out there, we talked to another one. She was a Vietnam-era veteran. And she asked me a few nights ago, it was Wayne County we were in. We met her outside. We were chatting. She was really angry at first. She said, "Why are you cutting veterans' benefits?" I said, "We're not cutting veterans' benefits." She said, "No, you're cutting veterans' benefits." I said, "No, we're really not cutting veterans' benefits." And I think that would actually be a pretty poor platform to run on for governor of Ohio, actually. I said, "Where did you hear that?" She said, "I don't know where I heard that, but I can't remember." I said, "You must have served the country." She said, "I did. I was a Vietnam veteran." We brought her in. She hung out during the photo lines, asked her if she had more time. She joined us for dinner. She sat at the head table at the Wayne County Lincoln Day dinner. Sat in the front row, kind of where you are, sir. Listened to the speech. She was a little bit more awkward about knowing when to clap or not, because I think she didn't want to betray her protesters outside by being too friendly. But at the end of the night, she stood up. We asked her to stand up. The whole audience applauded a Vietnam veteran that I think we as Republicans can do, even if she thinks of herself as a Democrat. We called her up on stage at the end, and she said that you all changed my perspective on Republicans tonight. And I thought that that was a moment that gave me some hope for what's possible in our state and in our country. We don't want just the people in this room. We want to grow the people who are in this room. It's a packed house, but we'll make space for you too. If you care about educational excellence and economic excellence for your kids, if you care about giving your kids the same shot at the American dream that this state gave to me, then we will work with you to lead our state to the next level, and we will have a seat for you at the table in our movement to get there. Because we don't have to be this state in decline. We don't have to be a region in decline. We don't have to be a nation in decline. I believe Ohio, like our nation, is still a state in our ascent, still on our way up. Still a state where we will look our kids in the eye and mean it when we tell them. How old are you, man? You're right here? Hey, you're 79. How old are you, sir?
16.
16. From a 79-year-old to a 16-year-old, right? What's your name?
Bowen.
Bowen?
Yep.
We'll tell Bowen and his generation at the age of 16 that this is still the state in the country where you will get ahead with your own hard work, your own commitment, your own dedication, and that you know what? You are free to speak your mind at every step of the way. That is the American dream. That is what we are running to as a state. So that 10 years from now, when we're sending manned rockets to Mars, when we're powering our electric grid with nuclear energy, when we're curing previously incurable diseases with cures discovered right here in Ohio. You want to know what our young people are going to say then? Only in Ohio. My dream for this day. Thank you all, guys. God bless you and your families, and may God bless our great state of Ohio. Keep fighting. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.